Hi, everybody. Welcome. Happy spring. Welcome to our March Strength of Community Zoom chat. This month, we are talking baseball, all things baseball. My name is Mike Martinez, as Mary said. I'm part of the communications team here at the Front Porch Home Office. But most importantly today, I'm a baseball fan. I'm wearing my Dodgers championship t-shirt and my Dodgers spring training 2017 cap. I've been a baseball fan for more than 50 years. Today we have two guests and who have very interesting stories to tell about how they came to love America's pastime, baseball. We're also going to delve into some trivia and a couple of surveys for you. So that's kind of exciting. So make sure you participate in those. And of course, at the end, toward the end of the hour, we want to hear from you. We want to hear your baseball stories. We want to hear favorite games you may have attended, favorite players, favorite teams, memories with family members, anything at all relating to baseball. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mary for a second, and she's going to start us off with a survey or a poll.
Yes. I have a poll, and I know that a lot of us are transplants. Mike and I specifically, we grew up in Los Angeles, so we do not have other favorite teams or we didn't have to choose any other California teams. But here's your chance to try the poll feature on Zoom. So if you are from somewhere else and are transplanted into California, then you get to choose a California team. But what is your favorite California team?
Come on, no one from Northern California yet, huh?
No, I don't see anybody from Sunnyview. I was hoping that we would get some rivalries going. One of our guests kind of sighs whenever I say Dodgers. It's kind of natural, like we sigh when you say Giants.
Good for you.
Okay, yay, Kara. She's obviously a San Diego transplant or transplant to San Diego. Okay, is everybody done? I'm going to end the polling in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay.
So how did it turn out here?
So can you see the results?
Yep. No one from the north.
No, we have no Northerners today, and it's just, we're going to have to tell them how much fun we had, and next time they'll have to show up. Okay, well, some Angels. So that means I know that we have some of our Orange County Walnut Village folks, and definitely have some San Diego friends joining us today. So that is wonderful.
All righty, thank you, Mary. I would like to introduce our first guest, Wesley Palms resident Ed Dick. Ed's baseball story begins in the streets of Chicago, where he played in youth leagues, but then it progressed quite a bit and he ended up almost in the major leagues. And I'm going to let him tell his story about how he almost ended up in the major leagues.
Thank you, Mike. Hi, everyone. Yes, in Chicago, back in the 50s, in the late 40s and 50s, we didn't lucky enough to get Little League yet, so we had park ball. And I played park ball, and that means that you put your own team together. The best player in the neighborhood was the captain, and he decided who would play or who would not play. There were no parents involved. And that's how I got started in baseball. And my friends back there like to joke because we played in a league that was 13 and under. And we started at 11, we were 11 years old when we started. I was the only player at 11 years old who was shipped out to another park. There were 2 parks in our neighborhood, one where the good guys played and one where the people who belonged in a lower class played. And he had to tell me that I should go play in the other park for a whole year until I got better, which I did, and I got better. I got better, a lot better, because I loved that game, silly game of baseball. And in 1954, I had the opportunity 1 week after graduating from high school to sign a contract with the New York Yankees. The Yankees gave me the grand total of $4,000 $2,800, which was a bonus. And the other 22 was going to be my salary for the first 2.5 months that I was playing in the minor leagues. And 1.5 weeks after I graduated, my father was driving me down to a place called Owensboro, Kentucky, which was in what they called the Kiddie League. And I went down there. My father spent the weekend with me. He left on Sunday. And for the first time in my life, I was away overnight on my own. And I had no idea what was going on. And 2.5 months later, I started July 1st. By the middle of September, I didn't want to go home because I was playing baseball in the minor leagues and they were paying me to play this wonderful game that I love so much. We played every day. We played, there were 6 teams in the league, and I had a better record in the minor leagues my first year than I did in high school. My senior in high school, I had a 7-6 record. In the minor leagues, my first 2.5 months, I had 7 wins and no losses because I had a good team behind me and it made a big difference. I progressed from that point on in the Yankee organization up the ladder, what they used to have, you had classifications, D, C, B, A, AA, AAA, and then if you're lucky enough, the major leagues. The next year I was sent to C-ball in Monroe, Louisiana, what they call the Cotton States League. It consisted of teams in Arkansas, Mississippi, and Louisiana. And I played there that year and did very, very well. As you'll find out later on when I tell you, my career was like, and if you put it on a chart, it was like a pyramid. It went straight up, hit a point, and went straight down. So that's the shape on the chart that it'll look like. That particular year, I was 12-4, and we won the pennant in our little league, and we won the playoffs. And the awards we got, what we used to do during the playoffs, they would send the players into the stands with empty baseball boxes, and we'd go collect money from the fans. And we take that money and then we divvied it up between all of us. And that was kind of our World Series share for that year. I don't know, I think it amounted to about $60 a piece, which was not too bad. So next year in 1956, I was sent to Winston-Salem, North Carolina in the Carolina League. And that was a year that we had some of the best players in the Yankee organization, and we had the worst record in the league. We almost lost 100 games. And if you don't know what it's like to play in a team where every night you sit there and no matter what the score is in the 9th inning, you wonder what's going to happen, how you're going to lose that game. That's what happened with us. It was a very, very, very interesting year. And I ended up having the only winning record on the team that year, which was 9-7. And the next year, which was 1957, which is everything came together for me, I was sent to Binghamton, New York, in what was called the Eastern League. You know, it had teams like Schenectady and Albany and Reading and Binghamton and Syracuse. It was quite an upset from the first year that I played. We traveled and stayed in better hotels. Our meal money was all the way up to $3 a day, whereas back in D-ball, you got 75 cents a day. But it went pretty far, I must say. In 1957, I had a year where everything came together, as I said, and I was 18-9. I led the league in everything, and wins and complete games and strikeouts. Our team won the pennant, although we lost the first series in the playoffs. And it was just a marvelous year, and I was really starting to feel like there was a great future coming up. And that year, I happened to fall in love in that town, and I went back, stayed in Binghamton for the winter, and froze working on a highway crew. But in October of that winter, I got a piece of paper in the mail stating that the New York Yankees had picked up my contract, and I'd be going to spring training with the Yankees in 1958, the next spring. Needless to say, you know, I was excited. My dream was coming true, and I was on my way, I knew, to the big leagues. 1958, I went down to St. Petersburg, Florida with the Yankees in February. And I got to the clubhouse probably an hour and a half before I was asked to. We were supposed to be there, I think, at 9 o'clock, and I was there at 7:30 to put on my uniform and sit there and then proceed to watch the parade start coming through the door. Mickey Mantle, Yogi Berra, Bobby Shantz, Whitey Ford, Casey Stengel, all those names that I knew as a kid, here they were in the same clubhouse with me. And I've got this Yankee uniform. And right at that moment, I'm one of them. As spring training wore on, I was doing decently. And I became, when we opened the first game of the Grapefruit League down there, we played the St. Louis Cardinals. And Don Larson was the starting pitcher, and I was the second pitcher. I was going to pitch the second 3 innings. Unfortunately, something happened that day that would change my career drastically. That morning, we had polio shots given to us. And I unfortunately got in line and I took the polio shot in my left arm, and I was left-handed. And I pitched that day and I didn't do too well. I didn't have it. I did have the occasion to face one of my boyhood idols. Stan Musial came up to bat and I just stood there in awe, and I got him out. I did get him out. But unfortunately for me, the next batter up, who was a guy by the name of Ken Boyer, who was a pretty darn good ball player, hit a 3-run home run off of me into Tampa Bay. And instead of pitching the 3 innings, they took me out after 1 inning. And the next day, I could hardly lift my arm up. It was really hurting me. And I couldn't, the rest of spring, I was useless. But anyway, I went on that year. They sent me to Richmond, Virginia in the AAA. And I had a decent year. I was 12-10. And that year was an interesting league because I got to play ball in Montreal and Toronto, Canada, Havana, Cuba. That was right when Castro was taking over. We went to Cuba. And it was quite an interesting experience. We stayed in a marvelous hotel called the Hotel Nacional, which is had gambling in it. And we saw all these gentlemen who would bring all their nieces in with them. And they would sit there and gamble, and they'd give their nieces money. And we thought it was quite nice of them. They had beautiful nieces. And there was a lot of those men down there that did that. And we really enjoyed ourselves and playing ball in Havana for 58 and 59. And then in 1959, the league pulled out because the celebrations got too wild and the shooting was going on during Cinco de Mayo, and someone had a bullet supposedly ricochet off their helmet. So the league pulled out of Havana. But it was a wonderful experience, and I got to meet Fidel Castro and shake hands with him when we lost the 7th game of the playoffs to them in 1959. In 1958 in AAA, I had a 12-10 record, decent record, and I was brought to spring training with the Yankees again in 1959. And I had a decent spring, and everything was going quite well, surprisingly. We were playing in Savannah, Georgia, and we were playing the Cincinnati Reds, and it was the last day of spring training with one more stop to make at a farm club in Richmond, Virginia. And they told us to keep everything we need for one night and to send our bags on to New York, to the Yankee Stadium. I did that. I got on the phone and called my father and said, I'm going to Yankee Stadium. I made it. I'm going to go. When we made the one other stop in Richmond, Virginia, unfortunately, Casey Stengel called me and my roommate and another fellow over and told us how we were great young pitchers and we we're going to get a little more experience. So they were going to leave us there and we'd be the first ones they call up. Just keep working hard and keep your nose clean and all that stuff. And to this day, unfortunately, I'm still waiting for the phone call. It never came, unfortunately, for me. That was kind of the peak of my career. In 1959, I had a so-so year. And in 1960, I had a year where I started out in Richmond, Virginia, was sent to Amarillo, Texas. From there was sent back to Binghamton, New York. And from there was sent back to Richmond, Virginia. And it was kind of like, I knew it was over, but I couldn't quit. I couldn't give up. So in 1961, I played again. I was sent to Richmond to begin with. They cut me at the end of spring training and told me I was going to the Cincinnati Reds farm club. And I decided to quit baseball and go home to Chicago. I thought it was all over. So I quit baseball and I was home in Chicago for 3 days when the Yankees called me and told me I was sent to that team that she's talking about, the Los Angeles Dodgers. The Dodgers had bought me and I thought, well, maybe the change of scenery will do wonders for me. And so I went where they told me, which was Atlanta, Georgia, and spent a year in Atlanta, which was they called double A ball. And a so-so year there. And the next year I was sent to Spokane, Washington in the Pacific Coast League and had a terrible year playing for the Spokane Indians in the Pacific Coast League, which sent me to Hawaii, and we played there. And we played all over. We played in Utah, Tacoma, San Diego. And that's how I found San Diego originally. That year was terrible. And when the year ended, I got another piece of paper that fall sometime from the Los Angeles Dodgers. And it said to me, you have this day been unconditionally released from the Los Angeles Dodgers of the National League. What they were saying was your career is over, Ed, and it's all done. Oh, they have a copy of the first contract I signed with the Yankees in 1954. That's the contract. I was making $500 a month because I was a bonus boy. I had teammates in that same league that were making $175 and $200 a month. And then the other one is the paper that your contract has this date been assigned outright to the New York Club of the American League. That's when I got called up to the Yankees and thought I was going to make it for good, you know. And you got the other one that says you're all over too. They got the other piece of paper there somewhere, but yep, that's it. You are released unconditionally. That was the end of the career in 1962. But the good thing about it, I found San Diego and I got to move here in 1975, you know, and make it home. It was a wonderful time. It was a wonderful time in baseball. You know, people ask me, well, when were you drafted? They did not have the draft in 1954. They had what they call scouts and bird dogs, people who just went around cities to parks and watched baseball games and looked for players who might have talent. And the only little thing I'll tell you is my father's from the old school, and he didn't believe in playing games. You work, you make money, you don't play games. I had to have a job the whole time I was playing. I had a job at night after school in order to play. But in my sophomore year, the scout from the Yankees talked to my father because they first spotted me. And he mentioned the fact that I might be able to make money playing baseball someday. And my father's attitude changed 180 degrees. From that point on, I could do anything, but as long as I played baseball, that's all I could do then. And I became one-dimensional. That's all I did. I played baseball. I loved it. And I still do. I enjoyed it very much.
So Ed, it seems like
Yes.
even though you didn't make it to the major leagues, your journey was very exciting. And the journey is probably, you know, the highlight of your career.
Oh, definitely. It took me to, as I mentioned, it took me to Canada. It took me to Cuba. It took me to Mexico. Played ball places I'd never been able to see. And it helped me to find out, you know, what I could do, what kind of person I could become and what I was, you know.
Well, thanks, Ed. You know, I have, I wanted to share with you, I did share those contracts, but just really quickly, wanted to show you, this is Ed and his, this is your baseball card. And then those contracts that we saw, better, bad. Tell us about this though.
This is what I bought for you car lovers with my $2,800 bonus. And that car was a 1955 Chevy, black on white, two-door Catalina hardtop, Bel Air hardtop. That cost a grand total of $2,100.
Well, and who doesn't spend their bonus on one of these? That is amazing. And then this is you with some of your teammates. And
yeah, that's Casey Stengel over there on the right. Yeah, so that picture, the old Dodger.
The old Dodger. And this is that hotel in Cuba that you were talking about.
The Hotel Nacional de Cuba.
That is
magnificent.
So exciting. Well, thank you, Ed. Thank you
Let
so
me,
much.
let me end on one thing. I mentioned that my career was kind of like a pyramid. From 1954 through 1957, my record was 74 and 63. From 58 through 62, my record was 12 and 24. So you can see how it peaked and went zoom straight down the twos.
But was it ever to a point where it wasn't fun?
Well, not really. You know, when they're paying you to do paying you for something you love, and you're getting to do it, as tough as it got. And I think when the chat we had, I told you about some of the bus trips and the things that, but you never thought about the bad parts. It was just all the teammates you had, the money that you'd play for nothing. I mean, we would, you know, it was back in the time when you used to say that too. You know, they're paying me to do this. Wow.
Well, and you know, thank you for your story, but I really want to end our time on your story back at the beginning because we missed a part. Ed, have you ever played at Wrigley Field?
Oh. Yes, I was. I told you about getting shipped out by that park league team and when I was 11 years old. And I went over to the other park and I played ball every day. And the next year I went back with the good guys and I became part of the Kilbourne Park Cardinals. And the Kilbourne Park Cardinals ended up winning our park league. We ended up winning the North Side Championship in the city of Chicago, Park League. And sometime that summer, we were playing in Wrigley Field and I was pitching because I became the #1 pitcher for the Kilbourne Park Cardinals when I was 12 years old. And we played in Wrigley Field. I'd love to say we won, but we lost that game 5-4, unfortunately, to the south side of Chicago. But it was what a thrill to walk out of the dugout. I remember all of us standing there in the dugout with our mouths agape, just looking at the ivy-colored walls in Chicago, where many of us had sat in the bleachers and watched games many, many times. And here we were playing on that field.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Ed, for sharing with us. Now we have another survey. So let me get to our polls. Okay, so this is actually a multiple choice question. It's not a poll, but we're going to you're going to see if you win. It's the New York Yankees have won the most World Series titles with 27. Which team has won the second most?
Giants.
The Brooklyn Dodgers, the Giants, the St. Louis Cardinals, the Philadelphia Athletics, the Boston Red Sox.
Does anybody even remember the Philadelphia Athletics?
Connie Mack?
I had to ask. I asked Mike if that was right or not, because I don't. Okay. Everybody answered, had a chance to answer?
Mm-hmm.
And known about that polling.
Okay, if you answered, well, the Red Sox won in our poll, but reality is what, Mike?
The St. Louis Cardinals have won 11 world championships.
Yes, so if you guessed St. Louis Cardinals, then you got it right. Good work, everyone. Okay, now.
Wait, do you want to hear like how many championships the other teams have won?
Oh, sure. Do you have that information?
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
the Brooklyn LA Dodgers have won 7. The New York San Francisco Giants have won 8. The Cardinals 11, like we just said. The Philadelphia Athletics, we go way back with them. They won 5, and the Boston Red Sox are close. They won 9. They have won 9. So.
Excellent. Well, good job, Cardinals. You are winners. Well, good. As Mike and I told you, we're both from this area. We're both lifelong Dodgers fans. And I just have to tell you, I still remember that we lost our first game that I went to, and that was against the Mets. But I think my favorite baseball memory really more has to do with going to the games. And Dodger Stadium, when I was a kid, Happy Days and Laverne and Shirley were very popular. So before the main event, before the real game, I don't know who played. I got to watch the Happy Days and Laverne and Shirley team play against, I think Penny Marshall was a really big baseball fan. baseball players. She and her brother Gary both love baseball, against Kiss FM. So just being part of the stadium and watching the game of baseball has always been my very favorite thing. My dad played softball when we were kids, so we were always at the park getting sticky and watching him play. So from a fan's point of view, not just Ed's favorite, game to play, from a fan's point of view, it's just really fun to play the game or to watch the game. And I hope that those of you who are here with us today feel the same. So it's my pleasure to introduce Hoppy. He's a resident of Frederica Manor in Chula Vista and barely made it here because I know he has fun doing what he does down at Frederica Manor. So Hoppy, I don't mean to make you blush, but your neighbors speak very highly of you. I visited with some of them yesterday, actually, and I got the feeling that you have not only a lot of friends at Frederica, but also fans. So your enthusiasm for baseball stretches from pickup games when you were a kid back behind the Franklin Fields in LA's San Fernando Valley, and then on to American Legion baseball, and then now all the way to dart baseball at Frederica Manor. So Hoppy, can you tell us your story?
Sure. Yeah, I was thinking back, and so Franklin Field was, my house was on a row of houses that was the closest to Franklin Field. And I had to jump 2 fences to get over to Franklin Field. And I figured out that I started jumping those fences when I was 5 years old. Because I remember in the first grade when I was 6, lecturing my little schoolmates on the infield fly rule. And I didn't learn that watching TV because we didn't have a TV and my mom wasn't teaching me that stuff. So the only way I learned it was hanging around over there at the Little League games. So I started going over there when I was probably 5 or so. And by the time I was 8, I was pretty famous over there. The coaches had seen me playing a little, because you don't start Little League till you're 8. So 6 and 7, I was just hanging around over there playing with whoever was out there practicing. And at the age of 8, I went to tryouts for Little League, and that's where I was told to take a fall. One of the coaches who'd seen me playing, he was telling me, Hoppy, I'm going to pick you. So when you do the tryouts, don't hit the ball, don't catch the ball, and don't throw it very well, because I want to pick you. And everybody else is going to see how good you are. And I probably might not be able to pick you. So you got to go out there and don't do good. So I was taught to take a fall at 8. Okay. My first experience with organized crime, not organized baseball. Okay. So I did really well in Little League. I probably still hold records at my Little League to this day. I was hitting home runs at a very young age. And from what I heard, I hit one when I was 9 years old. And a couple years later, somebody told me that they no longer allowed 9-year-olds to play in the major leagues. So that record could probably stand to this day. Maybe 10 years ago, I was talking to somebody, and I don't think it was just a rule for my Little League. I guess Little League is very organized, and I think they made it a Little League-wide rule that they couldn't put 9-year-olds in the majors. So anyway, I was doing really well, hitting lots of home runs. And another thing I did is I would go over to Franklin Fields when I wasn't actually in a game. And I'd go out to the scoreboard and work the scoreboard, and I'd get a hot dog and a snow cone for going out and putting the numbers up on the scoreboard. And I did quite a lot of that. And basically, all summer long, I just hung around at the Little League fields. That was my place. I was an all-star in Little League, Pony League. I played high school ball. In high school, I hung around with some people who made it. I caught a guy named Jim McLaughlin who pitched for the Angels as a catcher. Jim McLaughlin wound up playing for the Angels. My American Legion team, our second baseman was Tim Foley. Tim Foley was the first overall pick in the Major League draft in 1968 out of high school. I don't know how many high school first overall picks there were in the history of Major League Baseball, but I don't think there were very many. I batted fourth in the lineup and he batted second. And so I played with Foley and I played with McLaughlin. Later in my life, I hung around with Steve Yeager. I met him when I was living on a boat. But
Did you
baseball,
teach? Oh, by then Steve Yeager had been a Dodger, so you didn't teach him everything he knows about catching.
no, Steve Yeager, at the time I met Steve Yeager, he was already retired from Major League Baseball, but he was coaching a AA team in Long Beach, which was right next to the harbor where my boat was. And I met him and I was helping him set up his clubhouse because been in the printing business and I made really cool signs. And so I put all the little signs in the clubhouse that said, you know, what you hear here stays here. That's a kind of a baseball saying that, you know, what goes on in that, you know, I think Las Vegas has some sayings like that too. You know, so I made signs for Steve and I printed t-shirts for him and just basically hung around with Steve a little. I say it's probably about 10 years. The thing I didn't talk about before is that when I was close to 30 years old, did you hear that helicopter going over? I'll wait. I'm in the flight path.
Yeah.
I played
Thank
10
you.
years of fast pitch softball that I didn't mention before. I coached a fast pitch softball team from worst team in the league to winning a championship. But then eventually, you know, I went into the printing business. I had some opportunities to continue with baseball, but as I probably mentioned before, I love printing just as much as I love baseball. I found printing to be very challenging. It challenged me. It gave me a lot of ways to be creative, to be mechanical, to do things. I was making money at it when I was in college. I actually was printing t-shirts and paying my way through college printing t-shirts. And so I went in the direction of the printing business rather than baseball. I eventually wound up here at Frederica Manor. So we'll go to Frederica Manor. Frederica Manor, I moved in here. I was having a whole lot of problems with my health. And I went down and I actually moved into another retirement home, which was really boring. And I moved over here because I couldn't sleep at the other retirement home because they had air conditioners running all night. And so I got a cottage here. And I was dealing with a whole lot of fatigue, a whole lot of balance issues, and dizziness, as they would say. And I went down and I heard about this dart baseball. And so I went down to watch a game, and it was rather incredible. They had a little dart stadium and the place was packed with residents, and they were playing a game. And it's very competitive. There's some scoring going on. The people get really excited. There's hooting and hollering. But I still didn't feel like I could even do it. My health and the dizzy problems and just the lack of energy that I was experiencing, I just wasn't confident that I could do it. One of my first experiences down there is I was watching a game. It was towards the end of the year, and there was a championship game going on. And I watched Grace Johnson, who was here, hit a couple late inning home runs, and they wound up winning the championship. And so I gave Grace the name Ms. October. I think she might remember that. And another buddy of mine, Dale, was on that team. And so, yeah, it was pretty cool. Then I started hearing that they had pickup games, during the week. And so I started going to the pickup games. And I started to realize I started feeling a lot better after being here about a few months. And I was feeling better, and I was doing okay in the pickup games. And so I decided to put my name on the draft list. so to make myself available to be drafted. And I got picked. Not everybody gets picked, by the way. That's how popular it is here. You know, the people want to go out for the team, and sometimes not everybody gets picked. So I got picked, and I played on a team in the first year here. My very first game of dart baseball here at Frederica Manor, and I forgot to tell you about this earlier, is there was bottom of the ninth inning, and it was a tie game, and I hit a walk-off home run to win the game in dart baseball. I had never done that in my, all through Little League, Pony League, high school, and Legion. I had never hit a walk-off home run, but I did it in my first game here at Frederica Manor playing dart baseball.
Congratulations. Hoppy, is this you keeping score at Frederica?
Yeah, that was one of the reasons I said that playing dart baseball here reminded me of when I was 12 years old again. Keeping score. This is a pickup game. And the reason it started reminding me of being 12 years old here is because, the pickup games were a lot of fun. They were even more fun than our regular Monday night games, because you could just wander down to the dart baseball stadium, 3 days a week at 2 o'clock. We just wander down there. A bunch of people would gather, and we would pick teams by drawing numbers or little letters out of a thing. So there's no politics as to who played who. And the pickup games were a lot of fun. And it just reminded me of when I was a kid, keeping score on the scoreboard and climbing over those fences and, just playing with whoever was there, and so it really reminded me of being 12 years old again, hanging out here. And,
so if I live at Frederica Manor and I never get picked for a team, I can still play a pickup game with you, right?
Yes. And
I would probably only do that.
And the pickup games, we do try to play everybody who shows up. Okay, we'll have 6-man teams if that's what it takes. But the pickup games, we usually do get everybody who shows up. And we get a lot of people showing up for the pickup games sometimes. So that's how going to the pickup games is how the team captains figure out who they're going to pick. So if you want to get on a team, it's a good idea to go to the pickup games, because that's where you make your reputation.
That's your scouting event.
Yeah, the scouts are at the pickup games.
So for those of you who aren't familiar with dart baseball, it's been around at Frederica Manor for like 70 years. It started like in the 40s. And it's kind of a giant diamond painted on the wall, and you throw darts and you hit singles, doubles, home runs, triples, whatever, get outs. And Hoppy, why do you think that dart baseball at Frederica has lasted that long? What about it attracts people other than the sport itself? Is it the camaraderie, or what, in your opinion, is the draw of dart baseball at Frederica?
Well, there's just, a lot of sport fans, here. And it's actually a competitive game. The games are exciting. They're good. Teams will be down a run or two, and then somebody will score a run. And it's like watching a real event. Like I say, I was watching, myself as a fan or a spectator, and sitting there watching Grace hit home runs. One other person I want to mention is in our last season, I won the championship. The last season before the lockdown, I was on a team that won the championship, and we had a player on our team. She passed away recently, who we really didn't think she was all that good, and she could barely get the dart to the dartboard. And in our final game to win the championship, she hit 4 or 5 home runs.
Wow.
And she'd just throw these floaters up there, and we would just look at each other going, how does she do it? She scored, she had like 9 RBIs out of the 10 runs that we scored. And I think we won the game like 10-8. And Shirley did some amazing things. We had some little ladies that had lost their sight, who used to be really good dart players here. And they weren't seeing too good. They'd walk up they only played in the pickup games, and they walk up to the line where you throw it. They'd have one hand on their walker, and then they'd have, as people, she'd throw a dart and it lands somewhere, and then people tell her where it landed. And so they tell her, okay, go a little bit more to the right. Audrey Beck, I'm talking about Audrey Beck, if you know who she is. And so she'd make adjustments. And so, yeah, everybody got to play in the pickup games. And it was really incredible seeing these people just do so good at something. It's actually not that easy of a game. You know, you have to practice a lot to hit home runs. And but just like I say, it's a real game. That's why it's so popular here. It's for real. It's not something that you know. It's not a minor sport. In college, they had major sports and they had minor sports.
Well,
It's
you
not a
also
minor
make
sport.
you also make it really fun. Excuse me.
Mary, can I add?
Yes.
I went down there to watch about 5-6 years ago. We went down there to watch a dart baseball game. What he forgot to say, they also have a lady playing the piano down there who plays the Star Spangled Banner to start the game. They play Take Me Out the Ball Game in the 7th inning stretch. They do the whole 9 yards. And I really looked, I was hoping we could put it here at Wesley Pounds, but unfortunately, we didn't have anything, any facility, any room that would fit it. It's a wonderful game to watch, as he said. I mean, that's the first time I'd ever seen it. And I got caught up in it, watching them play, the enthusiasm and the excitement they had, throwing these darts and hitting home runs and high-fiving and on the whole 9 yards.
We even have an umpire that we can boo.
That's right.
You know? So people be booing at the umpire, and the umpire will be, you know, kind of getting sassy back at us.
Well, Hoppy, you also mentioned you've got ideas about how it could work at places who don't think it would work. So Hoppy's got some creative ideas. Maybe someday there will be dart baseball other places throughout Front Porch. You never know.
We do have, from what I understand, we have quite a large population here comparatively.
You do. And you
Yeah.
have some nice big rooms, which
Yeah.
makes it
Well, the
conducive.
dart baseball stadium is a riot. I wish I should have brought pictures of that, of the dartboard in the dart baseball stadium. It's specially designed to be a baseball stadium. I guess Craig really got into it, our executive director, and we have a management team. Craig has a team, and they go down there and we play darts against you know, the nurse, the head nurse, and Craig, and the head cook, and all those people come down, and they have their own team, which adds excitement.
If other residents who are listening now from other communities, if they're interested in starting a dart baseball team, can they contact Hoppy and get some tips?
Yeah, they can contact me. Frank Marini knows way more about dart baseball than me. He's been doing this here. He's like the director of the league.
That's right. They call him the commissioner.
The commissioner. There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, Commissioner
Frank Marini's our
Marini.
commissioner. And he knows more about the history and all the old players. You know, I'll see somebody walking around, and Frank will start telling me, "Oh, that guy used to be a really good dart player at one time." You know, that's one thing. You know, people do get older here, and it gets to the point where they can't throw darts anymore. But you have to be 90 or 100 before that's going to happen.
It's true. And you can still come to the games and you can still enjoy the camaraderie. And what we'll do when we pull the chat together and edit it, we will make sure that we get pictures of your dart baseball stadium so that we can show our friends what we mean when we say this. So thank you, Hoppy.
Yes, thank you so much. Before we get to the next section of our chat, our baseball memories, Mary's going to put up another poll, and then I see that we have a question for Ed from one of our participants. Well, as you figure that, I'm going to read the question from
Please do.
from Jan. She is asking Ed simply, how did you pitch to Musial?
After I got over the shock of standing there and all, seeing him up there, I must tell, I did get him out. I don't remember how, but if the ballpark is still there in St. Petersburg, Florida, you would see the imprint of a right fielder into the wall. He hit the ball so hard, but the right fielder caught it and I got him out. That's all I care about. But it was something else anyway, to have that opportunity to pitch against someone like that.
Thank you.
There you go.
Mary, how are you doing with the last question?
I am ready. So Among these position players, this is just a survey. Who is the greatest of all time? Babe Ruth, Jackie Robinson, Mickey Mantle, Barry Bonds, Hank Aaron, Ed Dick, Hoppy Weiss, or other?
Where's
Can't
Willie
vote for
Mays?
yourself, Ed. Just kidding.
Where's Willie Mays?
Come on, everybody vote.
You don't have Willie Mays on there.
Oh, then you have to pick other.
Oh,
Okay. So, Ed, you just lost out slightly to Jackie Robinson. Congratulations.
But you equaled Babe Ruth.
wow.
That's you're as good as Babe Ruth. A little better than Hank Aaron. So, Ed, why you said Willie Mays? Who did you say?
Willie
Yeah,
Mays.
Willie Mays.
Tell us why.
He could in fact be the greatest.
Just because he could do it all. I mean, he could, most of those guys couldn't, he ran, he hit with power, he could throw, he could field, he had enthusiasm, he was a great team player, he was a great, you're just all around great ball player. The rest of them were known for a few things, you know.
Well, that sounds similar to what we have in Cody Bellinger on the Dodgers. He reminds me of just watching Little League. You know, he's playing and he can do a lot of different things. But I'd never watched Willie Mays. Well,
Yeah,
I'll
no,
have to
Willie
go
Mays
look.
was the 50s through the 70s. So he retired as a Met in the 70s, 1973, I believe.
That's before I lost to the Mets.
But his heyday was definitely with the Giants in the 50s and the 60s.
So our favorite overall is Jackie Robinson, but also Ed Dick and Babe Ruth. Do you have a favorite player?
Grace is Ted Williams,
Oh, Ted Williams. Tell us about him.
last player to ever hit 400.
Yeah, he's from San Diego.
My high school coach made us read his book, and we were taught the Ted Williams theory of hitting a baseball. He was the guy who wrote the book on how to hit a baseball back when I was playing.
Yeah, and Padre great Tony Gwynn was his good friend, and he followed that advice. Does anybody have any baseball memories they'd like to share with us? Favorite games, favorite players, favorite teams, experiences you've had with family members or friends at the game, anything at all?
Well, people do ask me what was my highlight of my entire baseball career. And in high school, I hit a couple 100-mile-an-hour fastballs out of the ballpark. And I always considered that the highlight of baseball, hitting 100-mile-an-hour fastballs.
Wow. Can anybody tell us about their memory of the first game they ever attended? About our Cleveland Indians fan.
I had Raul Mondesi say hi to me when he was on the on-deck circle. I was sitting in a very good seat, what they call dugout seats at Dodger Stadium. And Raul Mondesi just looked at me and said, "Hey, hi, how you doing?"
Okay, I had a sort of observation, if it's okay. And Ed, speaking about people like Don Larson and Yogi and Casey, because I grew up as a fan in New Jersey of the real Dodgers. Sorry, Los Angeles. But O'Malley stole his team and brought it out here. And I was thinking, at Cleveland, we had the same thing with the Browns, of course, it's another league. But I was thinking about the places that were represented in this poll. And all of these cities, Los Angeles lost football. San Diego has lost football. And so we all have had this, and if you're a real fan, you know the absolute misery and heart-wrenching pain of losing your favorite team. It's like losing, Ed can identify, and Hoppy. That's part of your life. They're taking part of your heart. And it's interesting with this collection of cities, we've all shared that kind of pain for something that was that close to us. It was almost like losing family. My hero was Pee Wee Reese, Gil Hodges, Carl Furillo, the great, in New York, Ed can attest to this by people he has met. New York City in the 1950s was the Hall of Fame.
Oh,
That's where Willie was, and it is a privilege. And again, whatever team you follow, you look at the best people you look at the best singers or the best dancers, and you know what a privilege it is to have these people share their gift and their enthusiasm with so many to whom it means so much. So Ed, thank you, and Hoppy, thank you, because you provided those memories and renewed them for us. Good guys.
Yeah, I forgot to mention one other person, Vince Scully.
Ah, you stole him too, damn. And he's still around, right? Vin is, last I had a note, he was still here. He was not broadcasting anymore.
Right.
Does anybody know if Vin is still alive?
Yes,
Yeah,
he
he's
is.
still alive.
Yeah. Yeah, and he has gone on to other things, narrating symphony concerts, but he was the best. You know, some say Red Barber, you know, back in Ed's days, he would remember. But that was another privilege, and we missed Vin too.
Mhm.
Happy
Thank you.
memories all. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Hey, is anybody a Cubs fan?
Yes.
Who's a Cubs fan?
Ed.
Oh,
Ed.
that's right, from Chicago. So what was it like when the Cubs finally won the World Series after 108 years, I believe?
Well, I couldn't enjoy it as much as my friends. I mean, the first thing I did was call my best friend in Chicago, who was totally excited. You know, here's a man now that's, at the time, he's 80 some years old, or right at 80. He's sounding like a little kid when we were 9 years old. He's so excited about what just took place in Chicago, because his Cubbies, my Cubbies, or as my mother used to call them, her Cubbies, my Cubbies won. But I was excited, even though I worked for the Padres now for the last 21 years. But even when I was playing for the Yankee organization, every morning when I looked in the newspaper, I would look at the Cubs box score to see how they did. I was always followed them all my life.
Now we know that the Cubs won the World Series at the expense of the Cleveland Indians that year.
Yes, and I was going to remind Ed, if it had not been for a rain delay, the Cubs would still be looking.
So the Cleveland Indians have not won the World Series since 1948, I believe.
Yeah, go ahead, rub it in.
So is
Here's
that a
your time.
So was that a heartbreaker when the Cubs beat you?
Oh, you know what was really heartbreaking, and anybody who's played any sport can identify, the Cleveland Indians in the mid-1990s were the best team in baseball.
Mm.
And, you know, that was pure joy. You could not buy a seat at the Cleveland Stadium for 7 years in a row. It was always sold every night. That was a kind of enthusiasm. And if Jose Mesa hadn't decided to work on his curveball for the first time in the season on the bottom of the ninth inning against the Marlins, we would have won that one too.
Oh,
It rains a lot. It rains a lot.
What about the Braves series in '95? I thought you had the better team in '95.
Oh yeah, we've had
Braves.
and we yeah, and there are, thank goodness for these wonderful rivalries. Certainly the all three New York teams, the Subway Series, you know, and the Brooklyn Dodgers and the Yankees. It's like one, you know, American League All-Stars playing National League All-Stars, and Musial would come very great on that great players list. And he was an exceptional player. All you had to do is look at the way he stood at the plate, and you knew he was not a common ball player. But those rivalries, and particularly so intense, are special things. They motivate people as well as players, I think.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are good time markers.
So Mary, I think our chat is coming to an end here. It's 4 o'clock, a little after 4.
Mm.
So I'd like to thank everybody so much for joining us. This has been really fun. And before we go, Mary's going to tell us just a little bit about what's coming up next month.
Yes, next month is April. That means it's National Volunteers Week lands in April every year. So we are going to celebrate volunteerism around Front Porch. And there's some really fun things. You think that there's a pandemic, but there's still so many things going on in volunteerism, so many exciting things and things that I'm exploring and discovering all the time. So if you have any ideas, please talk to your LED. Please send me an email at mcott@frontporch.net, which is MKOTT mary@frontporch.net. I'd love to hear from you, but I look forward to sharing some exciting stories of what is going on in volunteerism at Front Porch.
Thanks, Mary. I hope everybody enjoyed this hour. I sure did. Thank you so much again, and we'll see you next month.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks, Mary.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
All right, thanks.